Well, we're not getting a Fallout game for quite some time, but the Fallout TV show is in the headlines again. Don't do this, because we're going to do this in Fallout 5, says Todd Howard. And he's talking about the TV show in a new interview. This comes from Jez Corden at Windows Central. For fans of Bethesda's apocalyptic RPG series, the wait for Fallout 5 continues to be agonizing.
That's
You
the
can say that
same
again.
yeah.
The previous mainline Fallout game launched in 2015, and while there is a next-gen Fallout 4 refresh update on the way, the wait for a true sequel still seems far away. I'm a big fan of New Vegas, so I've been feeling this one for quite some time.
Yeah.
Developed by Bethesda Softworks, instead of Fallout 5, the firm opted instead to build a futuristic space RPG in 2023's Starfield, as well as the multiplayer-focused Fallout 76. And I have to admit that I bowed out of 76. I did not feel that one myself.
Our buddy Nate's in there. I saw him in there over the weekend playing that still. Like, some people are still hardcore onto it, right?
He does still keep up and that's like his recurrent game, and I just never got me the same way, but I would love for that to happen again with Fallout 5. However, we're not going to know for a while. The studio's next game is The Elder Scrolls 6. Again, a long wait since 5. Given Bethesda's notoriously long development cycles, fans are not expecting to see Fallout 5 this side of the decade. But it does seem that there's a plan in place. To tide fans over, Fallout aficionados have the Fallout TV show on Amazon Prime to look forward to, and it looks pretty great. However, comments from the show's producers have some fans nervous when they described it as being like Fallout 5. Does that mean there's no video game Fallout 5? Apparently not, thanks to the new interview between Den of Geek and Bethesda's exec producer Todd Howard. According to Den, showrunner and Westworld creator Jonathan Nolan elaborated his previous comments on the Fallout show being Fallout 5, quote, "I think it would be very presumptuous for somebody to assume that we'd reach the caliber of the games," end quote. That's an interesting top point there, because the games do live very high up in that fandom, but Nolan elaborated that the Fallout TV show is simply a separate story within the Fallout universe. It doesn't riff directly on the storylines from any of the games, and instead follows a completely new cast of characters in a new area. Quote, "It means you have all of the benefit of beautiful storytelling that Todd and Bethesda Game Studios has contributed to, but we also get to tell an original story within that world." Quote ends. In fact, Bethesda and the TV show team actively work to avoid conflating events from the movie with the planned plot of the actual Fallout 5 game. Todd Howard explained, quote, "Well, there were some things where I said, don't do this, because we're going to do that in Fallout 5. It wasn't the translation of an existing Fallout story. It was, what would be the next thing if it happens, it just happens to be a TV show." This isn't the first time that Todd Howard and Bethesda have confirmed the existence of Fallout 5, but it is the first hint we've had that the game already seems to be approaching a fleshed-out plan, complete with story beats. These games must require a huge amount of forethought and development, but Fallout is an incredible franchise with a long storied history. Spinning off of 1988's Wasteland franchise, which I still have yet to check out, both franchises were pioneers in RPG storytelling and depth. Through various twists of fate, both Fallout and Wasteland are now owned by Microsoft. Wasteland retaining its tactical turn-based roots, with Fallout gunning for the first-person FPS RPG gameplay. Fallout has grown significantly as a franchise in recent years, with the multiplayer-based Fallout 76 finding new audiences, as well as the addictive management game Fallout Shelter on mobile devices. Now there's a personal connection. My brother still plays Fallout Shelter to this day.
Crazy.
That game is at least a decade old now. Many core fans are still waiting, hopefully, to eventually get a true Fallout 5 single-player experience. But that is going to be quite some time here. Either way, it's at least a crumb of hope that Todd Howard and the team have some of Fallout 5's story down. Maybe, hopefully, the Fallout TV show will fill that gap if it is available on April 11th. I am super excited personally for this show. I'm so worried that they're going to do something wrong, but this is exactly the kind of reassurance that I needed. Because if it's just Fallout 4, the game as a show, that's not going to give me anything interesting or exciting or new.
So I'm on the other side. Like, I'm excited for the TV show, but for me, I wouldn't know much of the stories anyway because I've never really followed the Fallout series. So I dipped into 4 and then bounced quickly, jumped into 76, bounced out quickly. Now, granted, 76 is completely different than your mainline, Fallout New Vegas and all the likes of the series. It's definitely its own entry, I think, into the Fallout universe, but it's still an interesting take to bring in, right? Can they bring any of that mechanic into the world of the TV show? But for me, if they go the route, and this is going to have some conflict here. This is not going to, bear with me. Halo Season 1. Chief takes his helmet off in Episode 1. Why? Because it wasn't made for the fans, Scott. It was made for a new audience to get captured into the world of Halo, right? And then hopefully maybe draw them into the rest of the series on the Xbox and then play the game, possibly. We saw how well The Last of Us did. Dude, it did incredibly well. But it paid particular attention to the games. I think this is the difference, right? And I'm very curious to see how Fallout falls in line here. Do they go the Halo 1 or do they go the Last of Us series instead? Where The Last of Us, dude, if you played the game, you were looking for, well, what is the new? Like, what else are you guys going to introduce that I already know the story. I already know the outcome. I know how all this plays out. So why do I want to watch the show? Damn, was that a show? Like, that was award-winning, incredible talent, and an incredible experience, even for fans who've played the game, beat the game numerous times. There's still little new nuggets in there for you to enjoy. Can they do that with this Fallout? Now, Fallout TV show is its own separate entry, right? So it's going to be a completely new story. But it's definitely where you take a look at Halo for Season 1. Dude, like that didn't go so well, right?
No, everybody wants to avoid Halo Season 1 kind of folly, but I see this being similar to the Halo thing. There's one issue that people have caught on so far due to the trailer. The power armor helmet lifts off so you can see the guy's face. As far as I understand, that doesn't happen in any Fallout games. That does seem to be an inconsistency. However, this is not the Master Chief. This is not somebody who's known for having a helmet on all the time. So it's a little bit more forgivable in this case. But I'm really hoping that they kind of lean away from all the stories. I don't want to hear about the water turning back on or the Mojave Wasteland war. They don't need to kind of point any of those cheesy references out because the Fallout universe is just so big. You could really just do whatever you want and just call it a Fallout game because the universe is so vast to support it.
And then let's not forget that Fallout 5 is still a couple games away, right? And here's the other thing. Starfield, getting DLC this year. So Bethesda's still busy on Starfield. So that's coming. And then what is next? It's Elder Scrolls game, right? It's the next whatever Skyrim is going to be. The sequel to that or the new entry into the Elder Scrolls experience. And then it's going to be Fallout 5. It's like, 10 years minimum, right? Probably. At least another decade away.
Probably. I don't think anybody knows anything about Elder Scrolls, the next one, and that's going to hit us first. Yeah. I don't even know what province it takes place in, for example. It's not Skyrim 2.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be an interesting turn of events either way, but will Fallout, the TV series, hold us until then? Time will tell.